The cloud. All right. Well, tonight we are welcoming Casie as our speaker. And I thought I had opened up Casie's background, but it isn't showing up. So I don't know what to do.
I can always share my background if
Well,
you'd
she
like
can
that.
tell us.
Yeah, we'll have her tell us a little bit about this, but we're going to have this wonderful session on energy and about our energy. And I'm excited about this because this is the second place in the last 30 days where energy has been the focus. It's really very interesting to me that this is such a big subject to everyone that I'm connecting with. So there must be something going on with the energy. So I like that. So, and then afterwards, Casie has an offering that will be coming out in an email to each of you that will include a download. It'll include the ability to go in and do a questionnaire, a special offer, coaching time with her. So there'll be a lot of pieces there. And Casie, you can talk more about that in your presentation as well. Does that work?
Great. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, so here comes Faye. So I'm going to make you the host. Do you need the PowerPoint right away? Do you want to talk a little bit?
I think I'll talk for a bit first. And
Okay, you need to be a little louder.
Yeah,
Maybe
we
it's
can't
my
hear you.
machine.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I think I was a little too far away. If that happens again, just chime in and say, speak up, damn it. I will.
We're on. We got it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to every single one of you women who are here today and welcoming me to this freaking awesome community that you're all a part of. I have been so inspired by Jean and what she's created with Aging But Dangerous, and to just have a moment with this community of women who are all about living their best lives and aging dangerously and with lots of energy and vitality. It's truly an honor to be here with you tonight. So a huge thank you for that. Just a quick bit about me. My name is Casie Kindl, and I founded Kindl Coaching just over a year ago after leaving a 21-year career in the medical device space. And I am writing my first book called Age of Beauty. I created this container of women called Age of Beauty, and it's all about having a community that supports and uplifts one another. Because let's face it, aging is hard. And I think as women, oftentimes we feel less than. We somehow got that message, each of us at a young age. And even though that's not the truth and that we're so much more than that, I think many of us, and maybe you feel this way too, that there's this message in the background, like, I wish I had more of this, or if I could only do that, or if I could only, change something about myself, then I would feel whole, complete, beautiful. And my mission is to support women in feeling the fullness of who they are, being authentically able to stand in their truth as the beautiful women that they are. So that's the mission of Age of Beauty. And if you know Jean, and you all know her very well, you know that she talks about, we're not our age, we are our energy. And we thought that this could be an exciting topic for tonight because we all know that our age just ticks up and often feels out of our control, especially when things are happening in our experience, maybe with our energy levels, maybe with a diagnosis, maybe with body and metabolism changes. And yet, even though that feels like something that's out of our control, the truth is we're not just an age, we're not just a number, we're this energy, we're this presence for how we show up in the world. And so the goal for today is really for you to be able to walk away with some clear ideas on how to understand where your energy is now and have some ways to be able to change that for yourself, because you really are more about your energy than you are about your age. And so what I mean by this when we talk about energy is this notion of just how you're showing up in the world. And you've all experienced this. Let's say you see a teenager and he or she has their shoulders slumped over and they're on their phone, and they just feel, you can just see that there's a darkness, that there's a struggle, that there's a feeling of isolation or being alone. Or maybe you're with somebody and they've got this frantic kind of like anxious energy. Okay, so tell me about that. And they're not really even listening to your response before they jump in with the next question. You feel that energy, you feel that presence. And conversely, you can have someone like Jean, who's in 84, right, Jean?
That's right.
84 years old, and she walks into a room and she's got this light about her. She has a smile on her face. She carries this optimism and this joy and this zest for life. And when I talk about energy, that's what I mean. I mean how it is that you are choosing and able to show up in the world. And I'm curious, which of those, and you can just answer to yourself, do you feel more drawn to? How do you want to be? Do you want to feel that though you're that energized person? And I would imagine that almost all of us would rather feel that way about ourselves and our zest to be able to do all the things that really matter to us and connect with the people we most love and care about. So that's what today is all about. And the four things we're going to cover today are, first, a little more detail about what we even mean when we talk about energy. I want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. And then the second thing is there's really 7 levels of energy that I'll introduce you to today, so you can start to figure out where you fall. And as much as you might want a little bit more energy for yourself in a different area of life, there's really no good or bad energy, and we'll explain that in more detail so you can start to make those changes for yourself. I'm going to offer 3 or 4 actually very practical ways for you to change energy for yourself in your own life. And then you'll walk away with a workbook that you can use. If you are interested in this and want to dive a little bit deeper, I'll give you, and Pat will email it to you afterward, a free workbook that will really help you understand where you are and how to begin shifting it. So I'll pause for a moment and just remind us all, or let's get on the same page of what we mean when we're talking about energy. I think you feel it when you're with somebody and you notice the energy that they have, or maybe you walk into a place and it just feels icky to you and you have this sense that you should leave, and maybe that's the right thing to do. You also know when you wake up on a given day and you're feeling like, I can tackle the world, like you feel like you're on top of things, like you just have this energy and vibrance to you. And other days you may roll out of bed and feel tired and notice the pain you're feeling in your body. And so you understand on an intuitive level what energy is. But let's talk a little bit more about it from a practical standpoint. And literally every single thing that we see in this world is energy. We see it in people. We see it in the way we feel around somebody, but also things that seem very inanimate and like they're just there have energy to them. And you probably remember from science back in the day, or if you're in a scientific profession, that even though this seems like it's just solid and there's nothing to it, it's really made up of atoms. And atoms, if you remember, have the nucleus and then the electrons flying around them. And so just that vibration of atoms in literally everything we see emit an energy, and they emit this energy that attracts similar things back to it. Meaning, we too, as energetic beings, we attract what we are putting out into the world. And the best way I can explain this is, let's say you wake up on a given morning and you look outside and it's winter, like it is now in Minnesota, and you're bummed about how cold it is. You're bummed about the lack of snow that we've had, about how maybe it feels in your body and your joints when you're out in this weather. And you look at the day through a lens of maybe lack or frustration, or feeling like it's there and it's just happening to you, and you're not thinking much about it. You're just in this mental space. You also conversely could wake up, or someone else might look at that same day, that same weather, and see possibility and hope in it. Like, it's sunny today, the sun's shining, it's calm, it's chilly, but hey, we signed up for winters in Minnesota. We know what this is all about. And the point that I'm trying to get across here is, the weather is what it is. So many times we feel like these things happen to us and we've got no control over them and we just react. But the truth is, we're choosing what we see. And when we choose what we see, it sets the trajectory for the rest of our day. For example, because we're all human, and me too, and this isn't something that I've like mastered every day of my life, that's for damn sure. I woke up this morning and I did feel tired and I felt drained, and I a little bit slogged through my day. And one could say that I'm just victim to outside circumstances, but the truth is I'm an energetic being, and me taking care of my energy allows me to experience more of what I want to throughout the day. So if I'm in a higher, more, let's just say, positive energy, I'm going to experience more joy, possibility, excitement in the day. And if I would have kept myself in this lower space all day, which, truth be told, sometimes I do, and even today there were moments when it was a struggle, I'm seeing more of that reflected back to me. So that is kind of a big topic, this whole idea of the law of attraction. In what our energy is what comes back to us. So I'm going to say a couple more things about this, and then I would like to open it up to see if we have any questions on this before we move on, because this is kind of foundational to the balance of our conversation. And the two more things that I want to say about it, maybe three, are that it's important for us to understand and start to shift our energy if we want more in our lives. If we want to feel better, let's just say, about our lives, that ultimately rests on us. So that's good and bad, right? I mean, the bad of that is, we can't control the outside world and we have to do the inner work. The good of that is, if we do and when we do that inner work, we get to experience and see more of the life that it is we truly want. And so the fact that this is an inside job, it can be exciting depending on how you look at it. It can also feel overwhelming. And as we move through our conversation today, I'm going to do the best I'm able to make it feel as approachable as possible, because we all have the ability to influence and change this for ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there because I've shared quite a lot, and just open it up to see what questions you might have around energy, about this idea of law of attraction, etc.
So who'd like to go first? Have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
sorry, my cat is going to start walking on the keyboard. So I was wondering, like, as you're talking, I was wondering if, our ability to direct our energy, our ability to put it towards, like you said, you can choose what you see.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought, because I've always tried, there's something that's biblical that says prayer without ceasing. And I'm like, well, you picture like, sitting on a pillow all day. You can't do that. So
Right.
I've pondered that one for a long time. And it came to me, I'm wondering if prayer is the action of directing our energy.
That can be and thank you, Leah, for your question. And yes, prayer is one of the many modalities that can increase our energy because it demonstrates a trust and a knowing in some way that we are or can be taken care of. It also allows us to sort of let go of a sense of control that we often have on things. And so, yes, prayer is a beautiful way to allow ourselves to increase our energy.
Yeah. And then what do you say about energetic boundaries?
Great question. So, women in particular
Yes.
have a tendency, we have big hearts and we're natural caretakers, whether we're a parent, a grandparent, um, maybe you are really passionate about your philanthropic endeavors and volunteering and giving back to those less fortunate. You have a big heart. And as a result of that, and that is in and of itself a beautiful thing, but sometimes you maybe give so much of yourself to your children, to your grandchildren, to others where you see need. And it is important to be aware of your own energy, your own self-care and need for that in that process. So that can be one demonstration of energetic boundaries, of just having appropriate and enough self-care for yourself. Also, there are moments where we walk in or we're with somebody who really can suck and drain our energy. And it is important to be aware of it and not necessarily believe that we need to take that on as women as part of connecting with somebody. And so there are ways to kind of create boundaries. One is like almost wrapping yourself in an energetic cloak of protection, or if you've been around somebody that's just kind of gross and has left you feeling less than about yourself or anxious. One thing I like to do is when I step away, I take like fake scissors, cut away the energy. And it sounds so stupid, and it kind of is, but you know what? It can help. So
Yeah,
great questions, Leah.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have some experiences about energy. One of them is that I've had like 3 people, I think, in my lifetime where the energy has been so awful that I couldn't breathe.
Mm.
And I would actually stop the car, get out of the car, whatever, because I simply couldn't breathe. And it was just, my body was just reacting to it in that way. And I haven't had that recently, but it was very interesting when it happened. And then I had a girlfriend who said to me, I know how to handle energy. And I said, really? Negative energy she was talking about. And I said, how do you do it? She said, you put your hand up like this, you see with the C, and you put it like that towards the energy. So it comes in and it goes right back out to them. Okay. It doesn't stay with you. I thought that was such a cute little thing to do. I really liked that.
Yeah, that is. And thank you for sharing that vulnerably. That's it sounds like that was a very challenging and very palpable experience for you. And one that we can address a little later as I'm talking about ways to release our energy that you come away with today.
Yeah.
So
I also do the put up the shields. I watch too much Star Trek. So you just say shields up, okay? And that helps too.
I just stay away from people that have bad energy for me. That's all I do.
And that can be good too, to have an energetic boundary. So thank you all for your questions and for sharing. And so the next thing that I want to touch on is two main types of energy. And then we'll get a little bit more granular before we walk away with some tips and things that you can use to help support you in your energy. So I wanted to let you know that there's two main types of energy. They have funky names. These aren't that important. One is catabolic, let's just call that a low energy. And then anabolic is a higher energy. So there is no good or bad energy. A lot of us don't want to feel this. We don't want to be around people with this, but it's not necessarily a bad energy. And here's why. We need low or catabolic energy for our survival, for our protection. It is part of our fight, flight, freeze response that we need when we're faced with a danger for our survival. Back in the day, it might have been a tribe coming to attack. It might have been a tiger. Today, it could be someone drifting into your lane. It could be, a situation that truly is unsafe. And we need the ability to, without even thinking, to have our bodies respond so we can get out of that danger. And how I like to describe it is, and this is all happening subconsciously, where the threat comes in. So let's say the car drifts into your lane. You immediately narrow in on seeing that. And within milliseconds, your cells in your body release hormones and they break down to give you this surge of energy. If things like adrenaline and cortisol are released into your bloodstream and you react all within a split second. And so we need that in order to be protected and to be safe. The problem with this type of energy is that we carry it into our daily lives. We may base it on what we're seeing on the news or what we're feeling about a difficult relationship or our fear around a health challenge that we have or someone we really care about have. And while it's not a bad energy, when we carry it around for an extended amount of time, it does take a toll, because it is this energy that's meant to be used in moments, in fleeting moments of need, but not with us all the time. And when it's with us all the time, we're kind of still looking through this narrowed lens at the problem. And so we might feel kind of isolated about what's going on with us, maybe alone, maybe tired or sad or like afraid of what could happen without being able to see beyond this sort of narrowed lens. We can also sometimes feel like anger and frustration and this need to like fight for ourselves in order to be okay. And the problem with this low or catabolic energy is that when it continues on in our lives and we just let it be without thinking much about it, it can start to make us feel tired, drained. It can even lead to things like health issues. And so that's the lower or the catabolic energy. It's not bad, but generally a lot of us want, you probably want less of it in your life. Me too. There's then anabolic energy. Anabolic is a higher energy, and that's this energy when you feel safe, when you're relaxed back on your couch like Anne-Marie, and you literally can like sit back and all of a sudden you can see more of your world. That lens that was so small begins to open up. And even if, as you reflect back on the fact that that car drifted into your lane, you start to realize, man, that could have gone many different ways. So it's kind of miraculous that I was able to swerve in time and be okay. So there's a constant stream of well-being and goodness in this life and in this world. And when we're able to relax back into anabolic or higher energy, we allow more of that to come in. That is the moment, those are the moments that your body heals itself, literally. It's this constructive rebuilding energy. You're able to see more opportunity in the world. And when you're in this energy, more hormones are released that are feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin. And so you just feel better. You feel more relaxed, at peace, more joyful, more energetic when you're in this space. So once again, I'll say now and I'll say many times that there are no good or bad energies. It's just about recognizing where you are and starting to make shifts toward where it is you want to be. So are you guys ready to move on? Can I get, okay.
You bet. Do you want me to make you host now?
Sure. I would like to share one slide with you. So that would be great, Pat, if you could do that.
Okay, you're it.
Awesome. Tag, I'm it. Thank you. All right. Let me get this into slideshow mode so it's even a little bit bigger. There we go. So this slide, you guys, it's a bit overwhelming, and I don't want to get into the details of it because it's going to be in your downloadable workbook. And for the sake of time and for us moving forward and kind of being on the same page, I'm going to point out some high-level things with it. And then I'll describe the levels in a little bit more detail. So this is what's called an energetic self-perception chart. There are, according to Bruce Schneider, Dr. Bruce Schneider, there's seven levels of energy. The low energy that I talked about, that catabolic energy that maybe doesn't feel as good but is necessary for our survival, is at the center here. It's levels 1 and 2, and I'll describe these more in a little bit. The anabolic, or the higher energies, are levels 3 through 7. And we all feel these at different points in our lives and at varying percentages or amounts. But as we move forward, you hopefully will start to recognize that one, maybe two of these feels most like you and how you feel on a daily basis. One other thing I wanted to point out on this chart is as we look across the top here, we have thoughts that create our feelings that then lead to how we act or show up in the world. So again, our thoughts create our emotions and feelings that then lend themselves to how we show up. We can control more of our thoughts. And so just to offer one more level of detail with this, like, for example, let's say you're at this level 2 and you're kind of in this low energy and you're looking through a narrow lens at the world, and you see yourself and you see that damn like son-in-law who's been fighting with your daughter, and you're frustrated by that. So through looking at the world through this lens, you see the conflict. You might be angered by the way that he's treated her or something that's happened in their relationship. And so you might feel like you don't want to spend time with him. You don't want to be around him. You might feel a bit sort of defiant in a way. Same situation. You still have a daughter that you love and adore, and the son-in-law that's not totally fitting the bill. But let's say we're in a level 5 energy. We've done the internal work to be in that space. We may recognize that that's happening, but feel a little bit more like it's going to work itself out, a sense of reconciliation. It can allow us to feel greater peace about the situation. Like, you know what, this stuff happens. It works out. I've been there too. And therefore more accepting. So again, this is a big chart. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I wanted you to at least see it so that you know that there are 7 levels of energy. And I'm going to stop my share so that we don't look too closely at that and start to lose track of the higher level, I guess, messages. So what I would like to do now is spend the next 10 minutes tops, and I'll try to do it even faster, talking through the 7 levels of energy. And what I would invite you to do as I'm talking about each one of them is think about a time and maybe even write down a time that you've been in that energy. Because I am certain that at some point in your life, if not on a weekly or monthly basis, that you experience it in some level. So, was there someone who was chiming in?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss a question. All right. So let's first talk about level 1. That's the lowest energy. This is what's sometimes called a victim perspective, but what that mostly means is that you feel like things are happening in your world that are outside of your control. For example, you're getting ready in the morning and like the doorbell rings and your dog's barking and you spill coffee on your blouse and life is just challenging. It's happening to you and you don't feel like you're in control of it. When you're in level 1 energy, you might feel kind of critical about yourself, like, what an idiot that I spilled coffee on my shirt. You might feel doubtful, a bit fearful, worried, perhaps overwhelmed, or almost powerless to things that are happening to you. There can be a tendency at level 1 to withdraw and avoid showing up because you look like a mess and you're disheveled and you don't want to go out in the world. You might disengage or feel a bit stuck. You might also feel guilty or embarrassed, like maybe you said something that created a challenge and you are replaying the event in your mind, wishing you would have acted differently. There's a tendency in level 1 to blame yourself. Like, if I would have just gotten up earlier, or if I would have slowed down and not run out the door and not spilled that. And while it can offer sympathy and support from others to be in this space, it's kind of a tiring place to be. And if we're there a lot, we will tend to, over time, avoid situations, disengage, not act, and it can have an impact on our health. So I'd like you to take just a moment and think for yourself a time that you may have felt like you're in level 1 energy, like self-critical, doubtful, maybe fearful or worried. And go ahead and write that down. Let's move on to level 2. So level 2 is still that lower energy. We're still looking at our world through a small lens, but now we can see other people in it. We're not the problem. Other people are the problem too. And so in level 2 energy, we feel like there's a lot of conflict, like there's black and white. You're right or wrong. You're voting Republican or Democrat. Someone's winning, someone's losing. It's this black and white view of the world. And in this space, we can feel sometimes angry, sometimes resentful or frustrated. Like we've got to win at all costs, because if we don't, what's going to happen to the state of our country? We might blame others now. Instead of blaming ourselves, like level 1, we're blaming others for the way they're leading, for the way they're voting, for how they're showing up. It's hard to let things go when we're in level 2 energy, because we're thinking about last time this happened or a prior election and what that could mean. And so sometimes this level 2 energy can be like you getting a lot done. Like let's say you're hosting Thanksgiving and you're worried about what might happen with the son-in-law and your daughter. And so to like control that, you're running errands, you're getting the house all clean, like you're going to have this great Thanksgiving because you're not going to let that take over or ruin it. You're going to win in that situation. And so it can be a space where you can get a lot done, but much like level 1, it's not sustainable over time. And it's kind of led by force. So for sake of us having more of a conversation instead of me just chatting, I'd like to pause and ask if one person would be willing to share an example of a time that you felt you noticed yourself in level 1 or 2 energy. And there's no judgment here at all. This is a safe space for that. Jean.
Well, it just Just happened to me today. And I do have good energy and I'm very positive, but for some reason I'm feeling, and like you said, I mean, I think it's because of this book I'm trying to write, but I feel exactly what you just said, criticizing myself. Um, I feel powerless because I feel like I'm not, you know, getting the point across. I I I don't know. I just today was exactly like what you described on level one.
Thank you for
And
being
that
so.
doesn't happen to me very often, but I really felt it today.
Yeah, thanks for sharing so openly, Jean. That's what we love so much about you is you give us the space to see ourselves and recognize that we too struggle with that. So thank you for sharing. Let's move on to the higher energy, and I'd invite you still to see yourself in each of these levels because you've been there. And so the next level is level 3, and it's the first level of the higher energy. And this is where we start to rationalize, like, yep, that's going on, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to worry about the weather or the election because I'm fine. I'm going to move forward. We need to move ahead with life, with Thanksgiving, with whatever. So you start to sort of ignore or move aside maybe a conflict or a challenge you're experiencing in your life for sake of moving ahead. And you are taking responsibility for your actions now at this level. And you are able to release, sort of tolerate what's happening, compromise for sake of productivity, for sake of Thanksgiving being good, and able, as I said, to move forward. The good thing about level 3 is that you're seeing the silver lining. You're kind of being optimistic about how things are for sake of moving forward. So you have an ability to kind of minimize the negative and move past things again for sake of moving on. One of the not so good things about level 3 though is there's an underlying issue there. Like let's say the dynamic between you and your son-in-law or anything else. By just glossing over it and saying, I'm fine, let's move forward. Every family holiday, every Thanksgiving, you might find yourself in the same position because that underlying issue isn't being addressed. So you're sort of settling for good enough in level 3. So let's move on to level 4. We talked a little bit about this before when Leah asked her question around energy. And level 4 energy, or energy boundaries, you'd asked. Level 4 energy is a very heart-centered energy. It's this area of being concerned for others, for serving, and again, when we're parents, when we're involved in, if you're involved in something philanthropic, you have level 4 energy. You can see a need in others. You can focus on the solution when you see that challenge and you rise to the occasion to help. You're compassionate, you have gratitude, you are caring, you have love for others, and you consider others before you make a decision. This helps you foster deep connection and because you're very giving to yourself and to others. At level 4, you don't tend to take as much personally. And people tend to come to you more for help and advice because they see that you are able to focus on solutions. A really good thing about level 4 or a positive is that it can fuel you to give. To give can be to receive, and it can truly energize and fuel you. One of the downsides to level 4 energy is that when we don't have boundaries in place, like we talked about before, and we just give to our own detriment, we can be left feeling resentful, overwhelmed, burnt out, feeling like others are maybe even taking advantage of our generosity, which can put us down in the lower energies. So that's level 4. I'm going to go through one more level and then I'll pause again to ask someone to share their experience in either level 3, 4, or 5 before we touch on the last two and then walk away with some practical tips. So level 5 energy is a win-win energy. So this isn't about you're maybe less fortunate, and I see this, and because I'm doing well, I can support and give to you and care for you like level 4. It's more like we all win. The greatest leaders are tap into level 5 energy. They no longer see the world as black and white, right or wrong, good or bad, but they're relaxed back into this sort of greater opportunity. They can see so many ways to approach a situation. And so that offers them a sense of peace and inner confidence that they can deal with difficult situations because there's so many ways to go with it. People in level 5, or when you're in level 5, you might feel inspired. You might feel like you're able to capitalize on these opportunities. And you see others as gifted and full of potential. So even that conflict, perhaps with your son-in-law and daughter, you know they'll work it out. They're capable, competent adults. They can work through it just fine. There's less judgment at level 5. And instead of like judging how we showed up or someone showed up in a situation, we start to just learn from it. Like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that because it made Thanksgiving awkward, but you know what? I'm not going to do it again next year. So you're kind of learning as you go and you grow. The great thing about this is, again, you see so many opportunity in level 5, but it can also sometimes be a bit overwhelming. Meaning, let's say we're planning our Easter get together and it's like, well, we could have it catered. We could have everyone bring something to contribute. I could do it all. I could ask so-and-so to help, but wait, they have a gluten allergy or can't deal with the dairy in the casserole. And so sometimes you can get sort of overwhelmed by all the possibility in level 5. Once again, I've shared a lot. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to pause here and ask for someone to share a time where they've seen themselves either in that level 3 rationalizing energy, that level 4 heart giving energy, or that level 5, like I see lots of opportunity here and I have a greater sense of inner peace and confidence.
So I've seen myself in all 3 of those at
Okay.
various points and kind of move around. And of course, then there's times when I go to level 2, but mostly I see those kinds of things happening. But Pat, Dale, Anne Marie, what do you guys have?
Faye?
Yeah,
Hello.
Thanks, Faye. Dale, were you going to share something?
Yeah, I had a situation where I was really started at 1 and went to 2. I did get the 3, but yet I was kind of in between where I was feeling more positive, a little more confidence, kind of letting go of some of that, but I was still struggling.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes you're between the 2.
Yes. You bring up a great point, Dale, and I'm talking about these kind of in segments as though they're isolated, but the truth is we can find ourselves in a myriad of energies in a given day, or kind of like we're oscillating between a couple. And one thing that can be really helpful is, and I'll talk more about this later, but I do offer a personalized energy assessment that will show you exactly where your energy is most of the time. And it's usually a blend of like one main one and a second one. And then it changes when we're under stress. And that can be a really helpful place to start to understand where you are and know what's blocking you from moving into maybe more complete 3 than that kind of 2-3 or up to a 4, for example. But I appreciate you sharing that.
Most of the time I can be way past that, but then there's sometimes that it just comes back into mind and then drags me down again and I lose my confidence a little bit. But I have to say I've come a long way in my energy as you're talking about it since this incident first happened. And I think, we do that up and down. So
We
anyway, I'm in a good place now.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad to hear and thank you for sharing that. I think now could be a nice time for us to kind of bounce forward into ways that we can change our energy. I can speak super briefly. I'll spend 1 minute on level 6 and 7. And then if you're curious about those levels and want to learn more, there will be good information for you in the free workbook that Pat will send out afterward. Levels 6 and 7, we start to become more open and curious about the world. We're very present. We don't feel like there's any conflict. We feel like we're in this place of joy and wisdom and just trust that things work out as they're meant to. We can tap into a higher spiritual or religious knowing of our belief. We foster this passion and this deep connection with others at level 6 and 7. Sometimes even just a walk in nature. And you may have had these experiences when you're out watching a sunset or walking where you just feel this sense of peace or inner joy, like all is right with the world. That could be an example of level 6 or 7 that you feel. So for sake of us wrapping up on time and you still being able to ask a couple questions, I'm going to move now into the practical piece of this. And as we do that, I wanted to just remind you that you are an energetic being and you don't have control over your chronological age. That is what it is. And it's going to keep moving up every year, which is a beautiful blessing. But we do have control and you have control over your energy. And so when you're able to better understand and move that for yourself, you get to experience more of the world that you want to experience. And that can feel like a lot, but it also can feel hopefully very empowering and exciting for you. So the 4 tips that I have for you that can help you shift your energy. The first is download that free workbook because that's going to give you greater depth of understanding into where you are. And for every single level in that book or in that workbook, it'll give you a tip that you can use. And they're pretty easy tips on how to move up to the next level. So that's the first one. The second is to allow yourself to feel the feels. Pat, when you were sharing that story of having energy of people that literally took your breath away and made you feel this stagnation or this like block in your throat, that can be very hard. That can be very scary. Similarly, like if you're faced with a health challenge or you're feeling anxious or down in the dumps about a relationship, that's okay. It's normal to feel that. But what I'm inviting you to do with this tip is allow yourself to feel the feels, meaning allow yourself to go there, allow yourself to just relax into and feel the gravity of that challenged relationship or that diagnosis or that fear. Allow yourself to cry and scream or be stressed or whatever you need to get that out. As humans, it's our natural tendency to want to push away anything negative. But when we do that, when we resist something, it persists. It keeps showing up in our life in different ways. And so if you're able to feel the feels, it's going to allow you to release it. What I like to do is set a timer for 3 or 5 minutes. I'll be on my couch or in the bathtub, and I will just feel physically in my body where I'm blocked. Sometimes it's my throat, sometimes it's my shoulders. And I just allow whatever needs to come up to come up. And it gets pretty ugly and it can be uncomfortable at first, but what you realize is you're more resilient than what you maybe thought you were when you come to the other side of it. And there's a little bit more brightness on the other side, meaning you can release it and move up. That's the first one. The second one is to recognize when you're feeling good energetically or when you're feeling bad or low. And when you're feeling low, one question to ask that's really helpful is, how is this serving me? Sometimes it's serving you, meaning, let's say you're stressed and you're feeling low because you're stressed and anxious about something, but you do need to get something done. Like you need to complete that project, or you do need to reach out and have this difficult conversation. If it's serving you to be in that energy, then take that action. But there are so many times where we're feeling bad and we just kind of sit in it. And if it's not serving us, then you can go back to, say, the workbook, for example, or allow yourself to feel the feels or something to allow yourself to move up. Conversely, when you're feeling good, recognize that this is something that you had a part in creating. It's not just happenstance that things are lining up in your life. And so when you recognize that, you start to feel more empowered, if you will, to just recognize your own ability in creating your experience by attracting more of what you want to you. And the last thing I'll share is to prioritize fun and joy over your task and to-do lists. I am so guilty of having a list of all the things I need to do and feeling productive when I'm checking them off. And at the end of the day, sometimes I feel tired and I didn't prioritize fun and joy for myself. And I'm not saying go skydiving with martinis like Jean necessarily, but like get the coffee that you love, put the little bit of sugar in there that makes you enjoy it. Like take time to just pause and like as you're sipping it, or call that friend that you love and always helps you feel good. Do something to prioritize that joy and fun in your life. And guess what? When you do that, you'll still get all the other stuff done, but you'll actually enjoy it more. So those are the 3 tips that I have, plus download the workbook if that's supportive. And the one last thing I'll share today before we open it up for any last questions you may have is that I am offering to you today a gift, which is a ability to have a bonus session with me if you would like. That would include a energy assessment, so you would know exactly what your energy is, and you would know what's getting in the way of you being closer to the energy that you want. You'd get the assessment and a 60-minute one-on-one session with me for a 55% discount. So normally the 2 of those things are an investment of $495, but I'm offering it today and until the end of this week for $225. And I'm throwing one more thing in there, and that's also a 55-minute video that further explains energy, because I recognize that this is kind of a big subject and it's hard to fully cover in an hour. And so again, if you would make that investment in yourself, you'd get your personalized energy assessment, an hour one-on-one session with me, and almost an hour-long video further explaining energy for you. So that will come out in the email that Pat sends later. And as we wrap up, before we open it up for a couple questions, I just invite you to stand up if you want, or if you're sitting, and just kind of like shake off whatever energy you've got. Just shake it off like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And that is one of the last ways that we can release energy, is to just move and shake off what maybe isn't serving us in that moment. So thank you so much for your questions, for your engagement. And with the few minutes we have remaining, I'd love to open it up for any questions that you have.
Thank you. Who would like to ask questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Leah.
Okay, so an energetic block. Okay, so feel the feels is one way to just acknowledge whatever that feeling is, sit with it and let it move. When you're feeling like, that feeling like, okay, I'm just walking through quicksand, or I just feel like I'm dragging rocks with my feet. Like, what is that? Like, is it fear? Or is it, could there be, what is that stuckness, I guess? Is that when you need to go feel the feels?
Yeah, it's a great question, and often it is driven by fear of some kind. It's fear about you're out of the present moment when you're in that space and you're worried about something that might be in the future, or you're ruminating about something that happened in the past and replaying that. And that almost always is more of our fear-based mind, which is a lower energy that leaves us feeling stuck.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Pat, you're being very quiet. Okay.
Well, that was
Josie?
great, Kate. That was great, Casie.
Yes, it
loved it.
was. Yes. Okay, and we have several people, Martha and Faye and Royanne and Josie. Any questions? We can't see you, so we're just looking to see if you have any questions.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Casie. That was wonderful. I'm inspired of some other ways that we can use this wonderful energy, and we really appreciate your taking your time and your wisdom to share with us. It's excellent. So thank you very much. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, ladies, and thanks for your engaging questions and your perspective on your experience at the various energy levels. Helps us all to recognize that we're on a same journey together or similar journey. And so thank you for showing up as your full selves today.
Thank
you, Casie.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Anybody else have anything to offer? Jeannie, any last words?
Nope.
Nope, you're doing well. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Well then, thank you much. Good night. You will, in about
Night.
20 minutes, you should be seeing an email in your inbox. Okay?
Thank you.
So
Okay.
it should be
Thanks,
coming right to
Casie.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You.